Many of you will have had your attention focused probably on the goings-on in Multan last week with the second test between England and Pakistan, which was a very different affair to the first test. But there was something else going on in neighbouring India, which I think has merits far more attention. India are hosting New Zealand, and in the first test of three, New Zealand has pulled off one of the most remarkable test victories ever seen. Now, joining me to talk about this is our old friend from Sports Freak in New Zealand, Rahul Patil. How are you, Rahul?
Very, very good. And it's just the beginning of spring, summer, whatever you might call it. So yeah, no, nice and warm and very pleasant at the moment.
Well, we're going the other way. We're slipping into winter. It's very autumnal and dark and miserable and rainy and windy. Just horrible. So let's talk cricket. Let's talk about New Zealand beating India for the first time in a Test match for 36 years. It's quite a moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, every time any visiting team that goes to India will tell you that it is one of the toughest place to go and win a test match. T20 is one day internationals. Yeah, you might win those, but winning a test over 5 days, two innings, um, we always say that when you boil milk, the cream surfaces to the top. And somehow in India, Indian teams of the past have always found a way to surface to the top of the of- and yeah, they just find a way to win, and that's what makes it so difficult to go there and win a test match. And when you do it, I mean, just look at the time frame. It's 36 long years it's taken another New Zealand side to go to India and win a test, not a series. We're just talking about a solitary test, and that's how long it's taken. So it tells you how hard it is.
Now, you are originally from Kerala, I believe, but have been down in New Zealand for quite a long time. So, um, if those of you
i'm
who
i'm, I'm
can't
from
see this,
Goa. I'm from Goa.
Goa, sorry, Goa, sorry, I'm sorry. Um, you're wearing, for those that can't see the video for this, you are wearing a shirt which is one of those 50-50 shirts. It's half of it is the India shirt, the other half is the New Zealand shirt. How did you feel with this? Did you have mixed emotions on the result of this test match?
I always get asked whenever India plays New Zealand, I always get asked who do I support? And more so because now that I work in cricket media, people want to know, who do you support? And I think I said I've got two ways of answering that question. I said um, blood's thicker than any visa in the world. So whenever India plays New Zealand, I always support India. And I always say that I'm happy whoever wins, because at the end of the day, for me, the joy of one side winning balances the sadness of the other one losing out. So I'm pretty neutral as far as the result is concerned. If India wins, it's a happy life, and my wife is a Kiwi. So if New Zealand wins, it's a happy wife. So
And a happy wife is a happy life, definitely.
exactly.
So, I mean, there's been lots of reports around over the last few months about Test cricket being on its knees, but we've seen some fantastic stuff going on these last few weeks. Now, I mentioned England and Pakistan, but also this Test match, which started off fairly inauspiciously. The first day was lost completely to rain, and I suppose everyone's looking, thinking, "Oh well, this is going to be a draw, or maybe hopefully we'll get some cricket on." But the game was set on fire with India's first innings and being bowled out for just 46 runs, even with the magnificent King Kohli going for a duck. Um, were there any real reasons for that happening? I mean, it's such an unusual occurrence.
I mean, look, Indians are known for their hospitality, but they really stretched this this one out, because the funny thing was both the captains wanted to bat first, at the toss. So Rohit Sharma wanted to bat first because he was playing three spinners. Tom Latham, even though he was playing three pacers, said at the toss that he would have batted as well. Now, I don't know if captains who lose the toss sometimes use that as an insurance, because in case you lose the game, you say, "Oh yeah, I wanted to bat first anyways." But he was playing three pacers and still wanted to bat first. So that just goes to show. I think the underlying reason, though, was there's been uh, unknown, incessant rain in Bengaluru for the last so many days, which means the groundsman actually didn't get a chance to prepare that pitch as well as he would have liked to. It's been under the covers, it wasn't rolled enough, and once that happens, it just wasn't settled for the first 31.2 overs of that game. So because what happened in the innings break is the heavy roller was used, and you saw a completely different surface when the New Zealanders came out to bat. And that 10 minutes of rolling actually flattened that pitch out and turned it into a good batting wicket. So it was just one of those things, yeah, probably the only sport in the world where atmospheric conditions and a strip of 22 yards can make such a difference to the outcome of the game. But yeah, India just got caught in that whirlwind and didn't find their way out of it.
I don't think there's ever been a test match where a team in their second innings has scored 10 times the amount of runs in the first innings. Yeah, I mean, like, as you say, it was like a Jekyll and Hyde wicket after that first day or second day, I should say.
Yeah. And it was quite interesting because, if you look at the history that both teams came into this test match with. I mean, you saw India absolutely demolishing Bangladesh in that second test when we had lost not 1 but 2 days to rain, and then they made a match out of it and won with plenty of time to spare in that game. So they were coming in with a 2-0 series victory over Bangladesh. Bangladesh, who just days before had gone to Pakistan and beaten Pakistan 2-0 in a test series. New Zealanders coming off a 2-0 loss to Sri Lanka, and in that second test match that they played, they were taken for 602 for the loss of 5 wickets by the Sri Lankans. So it was all just shaping up to be one-way traffic, and just one of those days where everything that they touched turned to gold. They held their catches and they fielded brilliantly. They put the ball in the right places. I mean, even though you get a pitch which is good for bowling or fast bowling, you still need to put the ball in the right places, and they did plenty of that. Someone like a Matt Henry, he wasn't even played in any of the test matches in Sri Lanka. And there's been a huge outcry at home as to why he's not in New Zealand's first choice seamer. He comes up, picks a 5 for 15. Will O'Rourke, who's an infant in test cricket, comes in and picks 4 for 22. And the next thing you know, 46 all out. As you said, yeah, for the first time, I've also not seen a test match in a long, long time where the second innings has surpassed the first by 10 times.
I think also the context, as you mentioned, is quite interesting. That New Zealand had suffered quite an alarming slump in form ahead of this series, and like you say, that game against Sri Lanka was it raised many eyebrows around the cricketing world, and we were all sort of asking the question as neutrals, what's going on with New Zealand, what's happened? But this puts them firmly back in the driving seat.
Yeah, the team has been through a bit of turmoil, and from being World Test champions in 2021, that downfall has been quite dramatic because Tim Southee isn't the bowler that he once was. Trent Bolt has gone his way trying to um, beef up his retirement super fund, playing franchise cricket all over the world. You've got Neil Wagner, the lion-hearted Neil Wagner, who's retired now from Test cricket and from international cricket. Kyle Jamieson, the 6'8" Kyle Jamieson, unfortunately, his tall frame's not coping with the demands of international cricket. So yeah, that uh, the bowling lineup has changed dramatically. So that Ross Taylor's retired since that World Test Championship final. So there's been a bit of change in that side, and yeah, it's a new look, it's a fresh look side, which was going through this period of yeah, they're doing well in some places, but overall the results were not there, and for them to turn up and dish out this kind of a performance, yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
So it's 1-0 up in a series of three test matches. And despite India's sports freakish performance in the first innings, There were signs in the second innings that they are still there's that old phrase, you never wake a sleeping lion. And Sarfraz Khan got 150 and Rishabh Pant got 99 in their second innings. Um, it's not a given that the second test is going to be a walk in the park for New Zealand.
No, India will be hurting. We know what happened to England when they came. They won that first test, and then they faced a 4-0 defeat after that. Um, Even on the previous tour, when they came to India, they had won the first test and then lost the next three. Even Australia has been on the same receiving end. After winning the first test, they've been absolutely smashed in the next couple. So India will be hurting and they'll come hard. We saw glimpses of that in that second innings where they put on 462 and absolutely took the attack to New Zealand. Um, and the pitch will be different. Trust me, you go to Pune, you go to Mumbai, the pitches will turn a lot more. So yeah, this hospitality ends very firmly in Bengaluru, and I think we will see. Look, they're a champion side. They've made it to the finals of the last two World Test Championships. They're current winners of the T20 World Cup. They made it to the final of the ODI World Cup, only to lose to Australia that day. So yeah, they are a great side, and they will find ways to win. And led by a very, very astute Rohit Sharma, I'm sure they'll bounce back. And I still, at the start of the series, I'd predicted a 3-0 result. I'd still stick my hand out and say it'll be a 2-1 result in India's favor.
No, it's been a great weekend of celebration. We can't talk about New Zealand cricket. I mean, the men's team and their test victory against India is fantastic, but we have we have a new team with their name engraved on the Women's T20 World Cup in New Zealand pulled off a famous victory yesterday against South Africa. Again, a very, very unlikely win. I think coming into this, ahead of this tournament, the New Zealand ladies had lost 10 successive games. Now here they are, world champions.
Yeah, I mean, look, first things first, I'll put my hand up and say that I've been one of the harshest critics of the White Ferns. Sophie Devine in her post-match interview today also said that criticism was justified. And she said, it kind of also drove them to try that much harder and do their best. So yeah, she's taken it in the right spirit. But you're right, they went to England. I think it was 5-0 in the T20 series, 3-0 in the one day series. Then they went to Australia, lost three games on the trot day. So coming off 11 losses, I think something like 11 losses on the trot. And yeah, they were in that group with India, Australia, and all the other teams. Whereas it was just we couldn't see how they would progress to the semifinals. So when this World Cup started, everyone was saying, "Oh, there's no chance that they'll even get out of the group." That first game where they trounced India, really everybody made everyone take notice because that was a result which wasn't expected. Even when that result happened, we thought, um, yeah, they'll still have to. Australia will beat them, and they'll probably lose a game against one of the other minnow sides, and be out of the World Cup. But it just goes to show that when you at these world tournaments, you have to get out of the blocks well, and that's what they did. They won, they controlled what they could control. They beat India, they beat Pakistan, they beat Bangladesh, I think was the other side in that group. And yeah, I think a couple of other things also went their way, and luck plays a massive role in world tournaments. You had West Indies knocking off England, who they had lost so many games to in the recent past. They got knocked out. They didn't make the semis. On the other side of the draw, you got South Africa taking care of Australia in the semis. And Australia has been a nemesis team for any New Zealand side in cricket for years now. So, and yeah, I think when you see things like that happening, you just start believing that this is our time. And yeah, a fantastic finish. Look, Sophie Devine, the likes of Sophie Devine, Susie Bates, they are in the twilight of their careers. They've been fantastic servants of New Zealand cricket for a long, long time. And yeah, just when I saw both of them hugging each other, It reminded me of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, a few months back when India won the T20 World Cup, and these two veterans hugging each other because they were also in the twilight of their careers, and to win a trophy like that, yeah, it's such a feel good feeling. Fantastic weekend to be a New Zealand cricket fan.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, winning World Cup, I think if you look at any sport, men's or women's, whatever discipline, these tournaments, it all comes down to a bit of luck, some shockers, results, and I think that was what happened here. Coming into this tournament, Australia, England, India, heavy favourites, and for none of those teams to appear in the final, absolutely amazing. But at the same time, New Zealand found that momentum, and you get that winning mentality, and it pays dividends.
Yeah, and apart from all that, tosses also play a massive role. Even going slightly further back, this World Cup was supposed to be in Bangladesh. Now, the
That's
political situation in Bangladesh meant that this got shifted over to the UAE at the last minute. The pitches in the UAE completely different to the ones in Bangladesh, not turning as much, but very slow and very low, which meant the team that batted first in most games got quite a big advantage. And New Zealand, yeah, kept winning tosses, kept putting totals on the board, and their slow bowlers just kept defending those totals. I think the other thing that was good to see was they were by far the best fielding side in the tournament as well. Because of the time differences, I didn't actually watch every game, but I have watched highlights, and you could see that they hardly dropped any catches. Whereas you had a game that they played against Pakistan where you saw 8 catches were dropped. India had one of those miserable days in the field against New Zealand as well, dropping a lot of chances. But yeah, normally you see that in World Cups, the team that generally wins is also the best fielding side in the tournament. And again, New Zealand controlled what they could, and yeah, the results fell their way.
Yeah, I've highlighted this on the program for a few weeks now that the percentage of dropped catches in this tournament is the highest it's ever been, and I don't know whether that's down to the ring of fire with these new floodlights that are sort of football style that run around the roof line. But yeah, I think that's a very, very important point to make is that New Zealand have dropped the least catches. And that old phrase, catches wins matches, catches win World Cups now as well.
Yeah. And another saying that is there in cricket is batters win you games, but bowlers win you tournaments. And if you see, the New Zealand bowlers have really kind of stood up in this tournament, scoring 120, 130, 140, 150, and then defending those totals. You know is is quite commendable because we know in T20 cricket, if you're scoring at sixes and sevens and 7.5 runs and over, defending those can be very, very tricky, especially in the women's game where the boundaries are shorter, and the outfields in the UAE were quite quick. It's just one of those things that yeah, I think they had a game plan because I think they were more comfortable just putting the runs on the board, use that scoreboard pressure, field well, bowl tight, and then put teams under pressure. And most teams crumbled. So yeah, well played.
Well played indeed. Well, it's been a fantastic weekend for New Zealand cricket, both for the men and for the women. We look forward to the second test in Pune, and let's see how that goes. But Rahul, always great to talk, and I love catching up with you. And I'm sure we will speak in the not too distant future.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure, Darren. So yeah, yeah, go well, and until next time, thank you very much.